Look, we've all been fed the same motivational lines since we were kids. Just push harder. Don't stop grinding. It's the gospel of the dedicated achiever. You stay late, you never quit, you tough it out. And sure, that kind of grit can be absolutely essential for success. But what happens when that relentless focus starts working against you? What happens when your commitment to never give up turns into an emotional leash? Think about how much energy you've wasted banging your head against a door sealed permanently shut. How many irreplaceable hours have you poured into a project that, if you're truly honest, died months ago? The hard truth is, being smart sometimes means being brave enough to hit the reset button. The cold, hard truth is that sometimes the single most powerful, most intelligent, and most effective move you can make is to quit completely and start over. This isn't about bailing on your core aspirations. It's about having the clarity to realize the vehicle you're in is fundamentally broken, and it's time to find a new one. The real reason we stay put isn't about the fear of what's ahead. It's always about what's behind us. It's the time, the sweat, the cash, the emotional capital we've already thrown into the pit. We get snagged by this incredible brain glitch called the sunk cost fallacy. Here's how it messes with us in real life. Imagine that $200 ticket you bought months ago for a show. Now it's tonight. You feel lousy, maybe you've got a bad cold, and there's icy rain coming down. Every logical part of your brain screams, "Stay home, order soup, be miserable in comfort." But then that sneaky little voice pops up. You can't just waste that $200. So you force yourself out there. You're miserable. You infect half the audience, and you confirm you should have stayed home. You ended up wasting the cash plus an entire evening and your health, all because you couldn't stand the idea of admitting the initial payment was already gone. That money was already a goner. It was sunk. And we apply that exact, flawed logic to the big things: our careers, the relationships that have turned toxic, the business idea that hasn't gotten off the ground in 5 years. We stay stuck in the mess because we mistakenly think the sheer amount of struggle we've put in somehow makes it worth staying now. It's like we believe past effort creates a future obligation. The deeper the hole we dig, the tighter that anchor holds. We stop aiming for positive results and start seeking validation for the energy we've already spent. This is where the real damage is done. Quitting feels like admitting defeat, right? But what if staying is the bigger defeat? It takes far more energy to prop up a failing structure than it does to demolish it and build something new. Think of it as the difference between a clean, fast break versus a nagging, slow infection. Staying puts you into permanent maintenance mode. You're constantly making excuses, always doing little patches, always trying to convince yourself and others that the whole thing isn't falling apart. That low, constant hum of worry and effort is a complete killer for your creativity, your bandwidth, and your happiness. The true goal of quitting isn't to be comfortable. It's to instantly unlock the massive reserve of energy you were spending just to manage the decay. Once you truly accept that the investment is gone forever, it's sunk, you realize your only resource is your future energy. And the most revolutionary, powerful act you can commit is redirecting that power onto a canvas that is finally blank. So, how do you actually tell the difference? How do you know if you're facing a tough patch that just needs grit or a hard reality that demands a full U-turn? The big difference isn't how hard you're working, it's what you're getting back for that work. We all have bad weeks, even bad months. That's just life. But if you've been pouring energy into a system for a year, and that system is consistently giving you less back than you put in, or worse, giving you nothing, you're not dealing with a setback. You're dealing with a flawed premise. This is where you need to execute an amazing concept I discovered called strategic surrender. It's not defeat. It's not running home. It's an intelligent, calculated retreat where you use the hard-won data from your failure to inform your next smarter move. Think of it like this. You've spent 6 months trying to drill a well in a patch of dry rock. That effort taught you two things. That specific spot is useless, and now you know exactly which equipment breaks first. You don't quit the goal of finding water, you just kill the current location. You take your gear and move 10 feet over. That's the pivot. A pivot is about severing the how while doubling down on the why. You have to pull the anchor out of the past and immediately chain it to the future. What did you originally want? That core ambition to be financially independent, to build a product that helps people, to master a craft. That purpose is probably still great. The only thing you're discarding is the specific arrow you shot that missed the target. This requires a truly massive act of courage. It's about killing the ego's investment. Your ego loves sunk costs because they give it a story. I am a dedicated fighter. When you pivot, you trade that comfortable, self-pitying story for a much harder, but ultimately more powerful one. I am a strategic thinker. We waste so much of our lives trying to prove that our past choices were correct. But the moment you strategically surrender, you stop attempting to justify yesterday and start optimizing tomorrow. You switch your mindset from, I need to fix this, to, I need to gain velocity. And the most beautiful part of this process is the immediate visceral rush of freedom. All that low-quality worry, all that time you spent mentally preparing yourself to face the broken situation, it vanishes instantly. You don't realize how much that toxic project was clouding your vision until you walk away from it. The moment you decide to strategically surrender, you clear the haze. You can finally see the board again, and that blank space you just created is where your next successful plan is going to land. Okay, so the deed is done. You pulled the plug on that whole disaster. What's the immediate emotional fallout? It's likely a massive shift to quiet. A little unnerving, right? That total drop in constant, low-level stress. It feels like a huge, empty echo chamber. This space, this void, it isn't nothingness. It's the maximum possible potential. You didn't just eliminate something bad, you manufactured an enormous opportunity. Consider all the tiny, soul-sucking administrative stuff you were doing just to keep that dead thing limping along. The frantic emails, the awkward phone calls, the mental gymnastics to justify why it hadn't worked yet. None of that was forward motion. It was just triage. But the second you decided to abandon the mission, all of that mental bandwidth and time, all of that capital gets returned to your personal bank account. Talk about an instant energy refund. And here's the kicker. The biggest mistake people make in this moment is trying to immediately replace the lost activity. They swap the old obsession for a new, equally demanding one. Don't do that. Treat this vacuum like a sabbatical for your soul. Give yourself permission to be bored, to be still, to just let the nervous energy burn off. You need to decompress from the chronic emergency state that maintaining failure puts you in. This isn't laziness. This is essential maintenance on the machine that drives your success, your mind. When you stop using your brain to solve the unsolvable problem, it frees up processing power for genuinely useful questions. What do I actually value? Where is my leverage? What would a truly joyful day look like? These are questions that fear and chronic stress simply refuse to let you answer. The gift of the void is discernment. It lets you see the difference between the commitment you should make and the one you only made because you felt obligated. It's the moment your intuition finally gets a clear signal. But listen, why does this downtime matter so much? It prevents a critical mistake, lugging the heavy, old baggage with you. People constantly want to take the trauma, the bad habits, or the wrong assumptions from the last failure and drag them right into the next idea. You can't start a clean build if your hands are full of yesterday's wreckage. The void is the mandatory drop zone. A minute spent here isn't hesitation, it's a critical systems reboot. You need to shed the stress and let your priorities sharpen. This freshly wiped whiteboard is the single most valuable thing you possess because it lets you concentrate 100% on the optimal path ahead. Really, the whole point of this intelligent retreat is a declaration of self worth. You are essentially saying, my remaining years and creativity are too valuable to be wasted on fixing a problem I've already solved by leaving it. When you opt out, your statement isn't, I couldn't do it. It's, I chose to prioritize my future success. The supplies are restocked. Go make something great. All right, the dust has settled. You've successfully cleared out the mental clutter. The old baggage is parked where it belongs, and you're looking at a fresh start. But how do you actually win from this clean slate? We need to completely rewrite the rules of engagement. Let's start by killing that deeply ingrained myth, the one that says achieving anything worthwhile means constantly suffering. That famous hustle philosophy? Honestly, it usually just hides a total lack of strategy. We're adopting something called the low input success model. What is that exactly? It's a total flip of the script. Stop focusing on how hard you're working and start concentrating on how much leverage you're applying. Your job is to find the smallest move that generates the most explosive outcome. Picture a massive rock. You don't push it. You find the exact right spot to put your crowbar. The vast majority of the time, the difference between a massive success and a frustrating plateau isn't 10 times the sweat. It's identifying the single most critical pivot point. Get that one or two elements right, and everything else becomes simpler, or, even better, totally unnecessary. If you audit that project you just walked away from, you'll likely discover 80% of your energy was spent just patching leaks and doing stuff that simply doesn't scale. And this entire approach rests on three core ideas. Number one, radical simplicity. If your current process looks like a confusing flowchart, it's already broken. If it takes a dozen manual steps just to keep things going, you've lost. You have to strip everything back until the process is what I call self-lubricating. It runs itself, pushing the results forward without your obsessive involvement. A cleaner build always means less fuel burned. Then you get to the second idea, strategic boundaries. Instead of drowning in endless choices, which just causes analysis paralysis, you actually need to set powerful limits. These boundaries force your brain to be efficient. For instance, don't just say, I need to work on this report. Say, I have 15 minutes to nail the single most crucial sentence in this entire document. That zeroes in on the essence. Third is the systemic elimination of repetition. If you're doing something twice, it needs to be retired, delegated, or automated. Period. Your actual brain power is meant for problem solving and big picture strategy, not for routine maintenance. Let's talk about the math for a second because it matters. When you trade 1 unit of effort for 1 unit of reward, you're creating a prison of labor. The reward stops the second you do. But the low input success model is about setting up structures that pay you dividends. It's compounding interest on your initial thought investment. You spend a tiny bit of intellectual capital once to design a mechanism, a streamlined policy, a smart tool, an efficient pattern that just keeps cranking out value. You're building a reliable engine, not just pushing a cart. And this is where the real beauty is. You gain huge psychological freedom. When you've only committed minimal resources, your ego isn't wrapped up in the result. You lose the terror of failure, meaning you're suddenly free to be daring, to test genuinely breakthrough ideas. You stop being a perfectionist paralyzed by fear and become a relentless experimenter, viewing every misstep as nothing more than a cheap, fast data point. But here's the next kicker, the one non-negotiable part. This whole philosophy demands brutal self awareness. You must be mercilessly honest with yourself about what actually moves the needle versus what just makes you feel busy. This path isn't a shortcut to Easy Street. It's difficult because it requires extreme focus and saying no to almost everything else. But the payoff? Real freedom. You end up accomplishing significantly more while spending dramatically less energy, swapping out painful, forced discipline for elegant, intelligent design. So, we've arrived. Look back at everything we've covered. We didn't just declutter a few drawers, we bulldozed the whole tired landscape of anxiety and guilt. We ditched the old habit of treating life like a marathon you're always losing. And we swapped out painful, forced effort for one thing: intelligent design. But what does this all mean, really? It means we can stop chasing the unicorn called happiness. Honestly, that's just the wrong thing to look for. Happiness isn't an achievement you unlock, it's a byproduct you generate. When you aim for it directly, you just feel inadequate when you don't instantly find it. What we've built is far more solid than a fleeting emotion. We built alignment. We engineered a system, a set of non negotiable boundaries, clear priorities, and low input leverage that is designed to move you forward almost automatically. When your life structure is deeply aligned with your true values, the peace and the flow simply have nowhere else to go but right into your day. The heavy work? That's done. You've already done the tough strategic thinking of cleaning up the trauma and installing the elegant machine we call the low input success model. Now, you're not the one pushing the cart anymore, you're the engineer. Your job shifts completely from grinding to tuning. It's about checking the gears, making a subtle adjustment here, and ensuring the fuel line is clear there. And that's the real shift. You're done with desperation. You're done with the need to constantly prove your worth through suffering and exhaustion. You've installed a deep-seated freedom, trading that daily, painful discipline for easy, systemic consistency. The chase is over, and your new phase begins now. Welcome to the quiet power of a life that finally just works.